everyone, it's Sally McFadden with thepolkadotlife.com. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the United States, specifically Huntsville, Alabama. First off, I want to tell you that Stampin' Up! Is offering free shipping on qualified orders today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. So that is October 9, 10, and 11, 2023. And what that means is when you have $75 worth of products, so that's your subtotal before tax, then you will receive free shipping on that order. Now we do offer some expedited shipping options, but those will incur a fee. Today we are going to be working with the So Very Merry stamp set. It is a photopolymer set and it lends itself to being colored with our Stampin' Blend alcohol markers. So let's flip the camera down and get started. And I have 3 quick and easy cards for you today. The stamp set we're using is So Very Merry, and it is an online exclusive. So that's where you will find it on the shopping portion of my website. And it has 2 larger images, and then it has 3 medium-sized images, a smaller one, and then some greetings. Let's start by doing a little stamping. And I'm going to bring this other light down here just a little bit more. I moved it out of the way to kind of kill that glare. I am just going to be working with some 4 by 5 1/4 basic white sheets. I keep these cut at my craft desk, and so a lot of times that's just where I'll grab a piece. You can just use some scraps for these couple images that we have for the greeting and the main image, and then you will need one this size for your liner of the inside. But let's bring in our memento ink. And we are going to be using our little bird image today. Now this stamp pad is a little bit different than our other ones, and I kind of tend to like to give it a little swipe and then a tap so it doesn't have any swipey marks, but that generally tends to ink it up a little bit better. And I am just going to come right in here and give that a press and hold it for a minute and just let that black get on our cardstock really nice. Super fun. Just for this card, since we are using the bird, I used the other greetings on my other cards, but I just didn't love those to go with the more natural looking bird kind of one. And so I am pulling in winter owls, and we are going to use this warm wishes. This is a really pretty stamp set as well. Now this one is a red rubber stamp. And we are just going to make sure that's nice and covered. And I'm just going to pop that up here in this corner. And again, we're just going to let that black ink transfer really well. If you have a Stamparatus, I sometimes like to use my Stamparatus to stamp some greetings in black so that I can go back over them a couple times. But there, that one did really well. And if you wanted to take the time, you could actually heat emboss both of these images in black to do what we're doing today. Let's go ahead and get this out of my way before I make a mess with it. And I am going to pull my Stampin' Pierce mat out. When you use those photopolymer stamps, they really do like to have that cushion underneath them. You'll get a much better image if you take the time to do that. So I am actually just going to sit this away for a minute. I'm just going to sit it over here. I like to let my images dry just a little bit. Here in the South in particular, it still can be kind of humid even this time of year. So I just kind of like to let that rest a minute. Even though I'm using the right ink for the job, sometimes things smear. And so I just like to give it a little opportunity to dry. Cardstock we're going to be using is Crushed Curry, Poppy Parade, and Granny Apple Green. I actually have a little piece of grid paper I'm going to put down. And this is just because I want to, but you don't have to do this. If you are fine with just going on the fly, that is perfectly fine. I just thought this might help me to keep things a little straighter than I tend to do. So you can make these go this way. You can make them go this way. I've just cut them a little larger than what I might need so that I can go back and cut off the excess, just because you kind of don't want to end up with it just a smidge too short and then you really have wasted some cardstock. So I am going to get that one lined up and bring it across here and just give it a little press. And yes, that's going to get some glue on there, but it's okay. We're just going to be mindful of it and not be pressing down on that little part, so it's going to get cut off anyway. And you can put these in whatever order. You can use whatever colors, whatever stamp set. This is just a generic layout. And so it is a really good one, but it is good for, it's a good one for swap cards. It's a good one for multiples, for holiday cards like this. It goes together. They're straight cuts. It's just, you know, you could cut these strips of, well, if you had a TV tray while you were watching some Netflix or something, it really could go together really quickly. We're just putting, I prefer liquid adhesive just because, well, if I can get the glue to come out, I just like that little wiggle room. And I just left one space at the bottom. You could make more space at the top. You could make sure that they were even. You could just do all sorts of things. And let's just slide that. We just don't want gaps in between our colors. You really do want to have that really nice, so it looks like it's a printed piece of paper almost. There. And you know, since I got some glue on the side, I might just let this sit and we'll cut this off whenever we go to assemble our card. And let's move this out of the way. Okay, I've brought this piercing mat back in just as a little protector for my work surface. Because with the blends, alcohol markers, they will go down through the fibers of the paper and come out the back. And I just bought this new filming background and I do not want to mess that up. I cut our sentiment right off the top. I just thought, well, we could give that a few more minutes of drying time. And I am just using my paper snips. And I'm just cutting around this sentiment. Nothing fancy, really just kind of bouncing around that cursive font and trying to hold my cutting hand still, but moving the paper. It just makes for a much smoother cut. You can get in closer if you want that way. It's just a little bit easier to manhandle. Now there, like sometimes you do have to move your paper around, or your scissors. They'll only go so far before you kind of have to move them or change their position. And we're going to be cutting our image layer out with a die, and so that's why I didn't want to do that with my sentiment. And it's not very big, so it just kind of works to do it this way. I like to vary it up a little bit. Now let's kind of reposition. See, like I can just take that and snip it away, and that gives me better hold on this. So just remember, you take charge of the paper. Don't let it be the other way around. And then you may just have to clean up, you know, where it connects back in. just a little tiny bit. So we have that ready to go. In my office, my desk is just a mess. I have been crafting and having fun here, and so it's just kind of crazy. And I did World Card Making Day on Saturday. I hope that you were able to join everyone for that. That was a great free event. You may, if you go to the website, be able to get the replay. I'm not sure if you didn't register. If you did register, I think you got an email that gives you the link. But if not, I will see if I can get it and link it in this video. So let's start our coloring. I am going to start with the light crumb cake to do the face. Sometimes I use my brush tip, sometimes I use my bullet tip. It depends on a lot of things. It first of all depends on the condition of my marker. Some are a little bit more loved than others, and so sometimes my one end is just a hot mess and the other one is fine. It still works, so I don't want to get a new marker just yet. So that plays into it. It depends on how juicy my markers are also. And it also depends on the size of the image that I'm coloring. And these ones are kind of tiny, so we're not doing a lot of shading or anything like that. We are just going to get some color down, and we are truly just coloring just like a child would color in a coloring book. And so that is the light crumb cake. Now, with the exception of right here, I like to skip around and give areas places to dry. But if I don't do this beak now, I will forget, and then that will look weird. I'm going to use this brush, and I am literally just going to put a dab on that center, just barely kissing it to that paper, because you don't want it to bleed out. You just never know what factors are going to influence. You can do everything right and still have them bleed. It's just weird. It just happens sometimes. But I just like to plan ahead and try to avoid any big mistakes. Let me get my dark pecan pie, and let's start there. Like I say, I'm going for this kind of a mosaic look, and so I'm going to hop around and give each section a little bit of time to dry. And you just barely kiss this, especially that section right there is pretty thin. And this particular blend of mine is super juicy. Now in the end, this is open-ended, so I'm just going to kind of feather that in, if you will. My tummy is growling. I hope that that's not coming across on my sound. And I just need to look here at I did a little practice one, just because when you have this many parts and pieces, you kind of want to work out how you want to do it ahead of time. Okay, now I have the light granny apple green. And I'm going to do this top half of this leaf. And then I am going to do this one that's kind of with the flat side on the bottom. And now for our Poppy Parade. I'm going to start with the light one, just because I want to let that light crumb cake dry a little bit further. I'm just being very cautious when I'm filming to do this. If I was doing it on my own, I might just go in with the dark and start there. But I want this to go well for you all. And like I say, when I'm up against this lighter color, I'm just going to be very careful and careful along my outer edges. When I'm in between like the two red sections, it doesn't matter as much. Just because that dark would cover anything that would bleed over. And I think that you're generally happier even if a little white space would end up on the edge than having it bleed out over, especially the further into your project you get. So, to me, a winter bird, I just need it to be cardinal-ish. Maybe this is a female cardinal a little bit. It's not exact, but my mother loved birds, and so she loved cardinals. And it was really weird for me when I moved south to where I see cardinals in the summer. And that was just kind of a foreign thing to me because I grew up in the northeastern United States. And at least in our yard, we never had any show up during the summer. They were a winter bird, and in the snow, they really stood out. So then, let's see, we're going to skip that for now. We're going to go back. Let's take our light pecan pie. And you know, when you pull your markers off, kind of take them back from your project to do that. Because sometimes if they're really juicy, they can spray. And sometimes we want that effect on the background of our card, but probably not on this. We kind of want it to be an intentional thing and not a unfortunate incident. So there I'm just coming in with this light and coloring in those sections of the branch. So now this, with the red, there were so many, I didn't want to bring in another color on the bird. So see, this nib is not the best on here. It's a little bit frayed. So I'm just going to be very careful. And this is super juicy too. Like barely kiss that onto there. Sometimes, if it's a really small space and you know it works, sometimes I've even taken my Stampin' Up markers, the non-alcohol ones. But now that they've changed that nib, the other nib used to be smaller on the other end of that. And so it probably doesn't work as well as it used to with these new ones. They're a little bit thicker on the writing end. I'm kind of still, the jury's still out on that for me. I really like that super small end for addressing envelopes and writing and things like that in my cards. So sometimes I feel it can be a little bit thick, but yet for other reasons I do like it thicker. And then here I chose to do every of the one of the bottom sections of this tail, or not of the tail but of the wing, and then the lower section of the tail. In this dark. Now, I don't know why it is. My light marker is not as juicy as my dark one. But I think I still like it well enough that I don't feel like I need to go back over it again. And so let me get the dark Granny Apple Green. And just come in and color these last two leaves. Fun. And so you can see it comes out the bottom. And with a larger image, it's much more noticeable because you're laying down more ink and you're blending. This was just straight coloring, so it really didn't seep through too bad, but it was enough, and it's alcohol and it's permanent, so I would not want that getting onto my work surface. And if you're crafting at your dining room table, it's a light color or something, you definitely don't want that, or granite countertop. You just don't want that marring something, an expensive finish like that. Now I have this die. This is I think it's the largest one of this shape from the Nested Essentials die set. And I am just going to run this over to my die cutting machine, and I'm just going to give this a little cut out. I will be right back. Okay, and here's our little shape. Really like these tags. Just a super cute little image. So let me move this out of the way. Grab my bone folder. I have a card base, just it is, excuse me, piece of cat hair or something. It is just a 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. It depends on what piece of cardstock I have left to use. I don't always cut them this way, but for all 3 of these cards, it just happened to work out that way. And I really usually never do a landscape card this way, but they kind of had a little modern feel to it, so I think it works. It is just a matter of personal preference. Some feel one stand up better than the other too, so that just depends on your liking. Now we have our little piece here, and I think I'm just going to bring in my trimmer. Let me just move that out of the way. And I'm just going to bring this right here where I can see that it is going to cut. And just, even though that had a little sticky on it, I could wipe it off of this arm if it stays sticky, or it'll be fine. It's actually just a tiny bit on there, so it's not too, it's just a little tacky. And I'm just gonna go over these edges just with my fingernail for a minute. My hands are clean, so I feel confident in doing that. If I wasn't, I would use my bone folder. And on these ones, I just kept it really, really uncomplicated. I have just put this piece directly down on the card base. You could, of course, pop it up with some dimensionals if you would like to. I think I'm going to have to get a new glue bottle. But you know, just when you think it's empty, it really isn't. If you turn it upside down and tap it on your work surface, you'll generally find that it keeps going for a lot longer than you had expected. And that has been the case for me. So fun. And these are traditional colors, but maybe in a little bit untraditional hue of those colors, but I really, really like how it turned out. So we have our little image here. He's just a happy, happy little guy. And you know, in keeping with keeping these simple, like I have done on my other examples, I am just going to go ahead and glue this one down directly too. I'm going to keep this glue back off these holes, just because see there, it got one little point that came out kind of heavy. And just going to scooch this in a little bit. And I'll keep a little bit of border there at the top. These, you could center this, you could not center it. You can do however you would like. Like I say, I just kept this uncomplicated. I just like the simplicity of it. Now our mini glue dots are perfect for just putting this little sentiment layer on. And you know, they may even be a little bit too big. So I hope you know by now that you can cut our dimensionals, the edging, all of it. Use every little bit on your cards. Don't waste it. You know, I'm going to get one. I did not bring my take your pick tool over here. Let's maybe scooch this one over in that little bigger area. And then just make sure those are on there since they're little. And like I say, since I didn't bring my take your pick tool over, I'm just taking these off with my fingernail, which is not my favorite thing to do. But I just love this, and maybe we'll just put that right here up along that line. Kind of like that there. Of course, you could put it down here. You could put where, however you would want to. Like I say, don't just limit yourself. This could be any shape. You could make it bigger, stamp it right on this shape. If you don't have a die cutter, die cutting machine, you could just cut a rectangle out. This would be a great card if you don't have a lot of supplies. Now I also have this liner, and I like to, and you'll see I messed that one up, but I flipped it over. If by chance when I put this inside my card, if I feel that that image shows through, I can always just take some other scraps of these colors and cut them down small and run a couple colors along the bottom edge, and no one will be the wiser. We want to make good use of our supplies. There. I think that's just a happy card. Now I have some glossy dots. These are actually Daffodil Delight. I think that's what I used on my other ones. I'm not sure. My husband has been working in Canada, actually, and I've been blessed to be able to go with him a lot. And I worked on these cards there, and I think this is just what I had with me. And so that's what I used. But it's been a few weeks, so I am not sure for certain. But like I say, use what you have. They wouldn't have to be colored. They could just be any different shape, size. You know what? Let me put a little one on first. And let's see, where would I like to put those? Then we'll take this medium size and kind of put that under there. And I think that's super fun. Now I did also do this image on the envelope. And like I say, you just have to be a little bit careful. I can see like a little bit did sneak out there, but it doesn't bother me, especially if it's going to go through the mail service in December. It will be fine. And how I do this is I stamp my image in the black memento, and then I keep this packaging. This one's from Dimensionals, but like you could take when you're done with some embellishments, you could save that. And then I just take that and I put this right down in here. And then that protects it from seeping through and going out and staining the back of my envelope, because it definitely would on this. And then all of it would be there for the world to see, and you don't want that. So we have our fun little card. Of course, I could take some cardstock and make these on a wider piece and do my envelope with the striped paper. There are just so many different possibilities. You could use the stamp and just not color it with your blends, or you could if you wanted to take that much time to do it. But I just think that that is super cute and a fun card. Let me bring in the other ones that I have done for you also. This one is the Santa image, and I just use the same colors and just this, like I say, these might not be the exact same gems. They're really close though if they aren't. But this one I glued this flat down and I popped this sentiment up, and then I just used 2 more of those die cut shapes, the smaller sizes, and did some coloring before I adhered this down and just assembled it. And so it went together really, really quickly. And I love the angel. I just think that it is super pretty. I see that I got something on this transporting it home from Canada. So I may just stick another jewel on that, or I have a sand eraser that I can take on it and it will probably take out that little smudge. And to be honest with you, most people aren't even going to notice if that was the case. But our angel, I just used a little bigger of a circle so it had a white border around here. I believe this is Orchid Oasis that I used here. Just brought in a different color just to make her stand out a little bit more. I would say this is probably Petal Pink that I used for her skin tone, but we have several skin tone colored alcohol markers, and so you just pick the one that is most representative of your ethnicity or the person that you're sending it to and have at it. We have a little bit of something to offer for everyone at Stampin' Up, and that's one thing I really, really liked about the company. And then this one was a portrait card, and it just opened this way, and I did the bells on the inside. So super, super fun. I love it. I am just so happy with how these turned out. Now here is our little card set of 3, and I think they are just happy and they are just fun. Even though these are a little more serious, this one's more playful. They all have a cohesive look to them. These would make a great little set to give to somebody. Maybe you have an elderly person in your life that likes to send cards. They probably aren't sending many cards. You could make a set of 4 or 8 or 5, whatever you think that they would need, and just group them together with their envelopes and tie a little bow around it and give it to them with some stamps. And that would probably be one of the most thoughtful gifts that you could give to them for Christmas, because a lot of times, they're trying to get rid of earthly possessions, not gain more of them, and they a lot of times don't need anything. But something like this, and being able to send a card to a family or friend, family member or friend, just means the world to them. And of course, don't forget, if you're not giving these away, make sure that you send them out. But it is a good time to get started on these. You could stamp several of these images on some 8.5 by 11 sheets of cardstock and take those with you if you're going on a trip with your markers. They're great to sit and color in a hotel room, something like that. So I just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to see these, especially while they are still available, this set. And don't forget about that free shipping offer that is today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, the 9th, 10th, and 11th of October 2023. As always, remember to be kind, send a card, and do something creative. Bye-bye.